The Seattle Kraken have fleeced the NHL by acquiring a top prospect for very cheap, and it is paying off. It's going to have major implications on the Kraken's future and the future of this organization. We're going to break it all down for you guys coming up on this episode of Hattrick HQ. But before we get into it, we got to say that 91% of you guys watching these videos aren't subscribed to the channel. So if you want to stay up on everything NHL related heading into the trade deadline, make sure down below and hit that subscribe button. But Darius, we got to jump right into this because when we first reported on this trade, we did not think it was going to play out like this. And we're, of course, talking about Kaapo Kakko to Seattle. Since being traded to Seattle in 14 games, there is a correction here. He actually only has 4 goals. It is 4 goals and 13 points. And he's on a 76-point pace, putting up a plus-minus of 3. Big Ed Hockey here says, turns out the Rangers weren't the issue with Kaapo Kakko. It's not just the points that is shocking everybody with Kakko, though. It is the on-ice expected goal differential, which is basically when he's on the ice, what the percentage of a goal being is going to be. And right now, it is a 9.7% chance of a goal being put in the back of the net when Kaapo Kakko touches the ice. And it's all riding on the back of his confidence being so high. These are some quotes he said over here. I feel there's a good chance for me. I mean, I already say the confidence is way better than it's been for a long time. Even the coaches say you make mistakes, but keep trying to make the plays. He also goes on to say the confidence, that's something you have or you can lose it. And he said, I feel like you're getting more and more right now. And he feels like he's making plays, chances in the O-zone, and he's trying to find his game, kind of like before he got to the NHL. And Darius, I mean, hearing this right now coming out of Kaapo Kakko, obviously this guy is buzzing right now. He has found another level that I always thought that he had in him. He is just getting out of the Rangers has really brightened this guy up.
Well, Casey, I've always been a Kaapo Kakko truther myself. And obviously with the Rangers jerseys behind me, you know that I wasn't maybe a big fan of this trade when they sent them to the Seattle Kraken, because this is a good player and he's always been a good player, but he's not going to put up points like this when he's playing in the bottom 6 of the New York Rangers for year after year after year. So, you know, when you have guys, and one thing that really stood out to me, and you brought it up already in this episode, is his efficiency on the ice and the fact that he does not get scored on. He does score, and he was scoring very little with the Rangers, but he was on their best 5-on-5 line, and not just that, the best 5-on-5 line, in the entire sport for a period of time. And I actually don't believe he was ever scored on as a New York Ranger. It could have been maybe one time, but it wasn't more than one time, I don't think. So he was really efficient in that way. That was his best quality, I think, when he was with the Rangers, and it's carried over to the Seattle Kraken. And not only that, he's getting top 6 minutes, not just top 6 minutes. He's playing with Matty Beniers on the right wing. Like, you're going to put up points when you're playing with a talent like that. And the fact that you're a great player yourself, he's a big body. He knows how to play physically. I would argue he is a playoff performer. Whenever they were in the playoffs, the New York Rangers, that is, he did play a little bit better when he did get into the lineup. So again, Peter Laviolette over in New York is an older coach, right? And he likes older players who've been there, done that, have experience in the league. So that's not a great spot for a guy like Kaapo Kakko, still trying to find his way as a very young player still in this league. So I feel like it was just a bad mix, but this is not a bad player. And I think that he should have been given a better opportunity in New York still. When you have guys like Mika Zibanejad this year at one point, an NHL worst in plus minus, and you have a guy like this who's not getting scored on, you know, maybe switch up the lines a little bit, put him higher in the lineup, give him more of an opportunity to kind of offset things. But again, he was on one of the best lines in hockey when he was with the New York Rangers, and he's continued that success to the Seattle Kraken. So Casey, I mean, you know it. I think a lot of people know it. I think a lot of Rangers fans know it, that this was always there. He just needed a better opportunity to play with some better players. It is a two-way street. You know, he had to play a little bit better with the Rangers, but it wasn't a good situation. I wish they would have given him a better opportunity that he's getting now in Seattle. He's been a difference maker.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people were fired up when this guy was drafted. I mean, there was a lot of hype around this guy coming into the NHL, and then, you know, it kind of seems like, I don't want to make Rangers fans mad right now, but it kind of seems like prospects are dying in New York. I mean, what are we seeing with Laugh? He's one of the highly touted prospects. Will he leave the Rangers and dominate? It kind of seems like that's the situation right now, that they can't develop their young talent. I mean, Adam Fox is an anomaly. He is just one of those players that you could put him, you know, on any team, and he would be the player he is. But is it these other players that are coming in that aren't the Connor Bedards, they aren't the Macklin Celebrinis, they cannot develop. It doesn't make any sense of what's happening in the Rangers. We're seeing this player in Kaapo Kakko who has always had it in him, and it couldn't happen in New York. He wasn't given the opportunity. We see him getting top line minutes now. We see him getting power play minutes, and we see him almost a point per game player. That has to open the eyes of the New York Rangers organization, saying, hey, we got to change something here. We got to do something that if we want to compete in a few years' time, when our older players want out, when our older players retire, we got to find a way here to develop our talent. And if we just take a look back at this trade, Darius, it's ridiculous what the Kraken got for this guy. I mean, the Kraken brought in Kaapo Kakko for a third, and I believe it was a sixth as well. That is an absolute steal for a former first rounder, for a guy who is giving you a point per game right now. It is an absolute steal, and not just it stinging the New York fans as he's almost a point per game. It stings because he is beating every other New York Rangers player in this span of points. He has 13. The next best is Panarin and Trocheck, both with 11. I mean, Darius, this really, really has to sting for Rangers fans, and I think it's a big eye-opener here.
It is a big eye opener, and I think it's something that Rangers fans know very well, and something that I've talked about on Rangers Digest, shameless plug, for a long time so far this season. And on the Seattle Kraken side, just to tie that up with a nice bow, I mean, they acquired a great player here for Will Borgen, who was highly sought after by a couple teams, obviously including the New York Rangers. That is a great trade, right? Like the ceiling still on Kaapo is still very high, so that's a great trade on their end. But like you said, in defense of the New York Rangers, yes, he has more points than anybody else on the team since he's been traded, but the Rangers, since the turn of the calendar year, have put more emphasis and attention to detail on defense. They've been winning more games, and they've been winning them by lower scores, which I think is a good, showing for them and the fans. Obviously, that's something that they've been wanting to see all season because they've struggled this season. But, in terms of obviously developing young players, they cannot do it. They can't do it. They've really arguably never been able to do it unless it's a slam dunk by, like, Lundqvist, for example, in net, right? A guy that anonymously that comes around every now and then. So I think that they've had a really tough time doing that. And they strike me as, they've always been this way, I think, but they also strike me as like the Toronto Maple Leafs from the early 2000s and even the 90s, where they wouldn't develop players. They would just go out and trade for superstars and build their team around them, right? Which is kind of what they've been doing. Obviously, you trade for a guy like Zibanejad, you sign Panarin in free agency. They're a team that really relies on that more than developing young players. And you're seeing with what's happening with Lafreniere right now. He's a former first overall pick. He was highly touted. On any other team, he might be developing at this point into a superstar. And right now he is, I would label him as a star, but he's not a superstar that he should be, right? And he's had a great showing in the playoffs before. Last year, he had a great season last year, but again, this year hasn't really picked it up and turned it into another gear. So that's I would say your analysis on that is accurate, because the Rangers have had a tough time developing players, not just players, sorry, young players, prospects. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do going forward, because this is, I guess, another learning experience for them. Maybe don't trade guys that have a high ceiling still. Maybe give them another opportunity. Seattle made the most of this opportunity, and now they're going to see the fruits of everything. And hopefully, for them, maybe make the playoffs.
And it starts from the top down here in New York. I mean, we've seen with the Knicks, the same owner, he owns the Knicks and he owns the Rangers. They both do the same thing, like you said. They go out and get their talent, which there is nothing wrong with that. You can go out, get your talent, and it has been successful for New York in the past. But, why would you go out, spend all your draft capital, spend everything you have to bring in talent when you can home grow it? Like you said, Toronto used to be like this back in the early days, and we're seeing it pay off for them right now. They started developing their guys. They got Nylander, Marner, Matthews. Matthew Nye is a guy who's popping off right now with homegrown talent, and it's becoming successful for them. Yes, it hasn't led to any playoff success for them, recently, but we see it translate into them being a great hockey club. And I think the Rangers really need to, kind of see that here. Like, we have Lafreniere, we had Kakko, we have so many players were just giving up to bring in 30-year-old veterans to put bums in seats. We're not willing to go through 2-3 bad years so that we can have 10 good years. They really need to see that. We're seeing it in Montreal right now with all the young talent they have there. We're seeing it in Buffalo. We're seeing it in Ottawa with their talent growing right now. I'm not going on a tangent right now, but you really need to figure out a way here to grow your talent and not just go out and get guys via trade, via free agency, whatever. But it's got to sting for Rangers fans. Sorry for that rant there, but it really gets me fired up talking about not growing your talent, because we're going to see Lafreniere traded here at the deadline, and this guy, I'm marking it down. Put it in your books right now. Whatever team he goes to, he will be a point-per-game player for the rest of this season. Mark it down right now, because this guy's an exceptional talent. I was so high on Lafreniere when he came into the league. We haven't seen nothing with him. Get him in another franchise. This guy's going to go crazy. I can't wait for it. But sorry, Rangers fans, because, you're kind of in a rough situation right now, and the team has been hot. You can't say it. Since they traded him, I believe they have like they're 7-2-1 or something like that, seen on Twitter. So, it did work out for them, but it could have been better for them if they gave Kakko more minutes. But we're going to hear your guys' thoughts down below in the comment section. I can't wait to read your guys' comments on this video, because I think they're going to be really good. But if you guys enjoyed this one, make sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. We love seeing all your guys' comments, seeing you guys interact in the comment section means a lot to us. And as always, I've been your host, KC, alongside my co-host, Darius. We'll catch you in the next one.